We wouldn't know.
All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Here's Johnny.
Vanity. Definitely my favorite sin.
I am the devil, and I am here to do the devil's work.
The power of Christ compels you!
This is my boomstick.
What's your favorite scary movie?
Good evening, and welcome to Shiver, a horror movie podcast. We are your hosts.
I'm Daniel DeBona.
And I'm David Ulloa. And with us, not as usual, but as a return guest host, the one, the only, Carl Grasso. Welcome back, my friend.
What's up, guys? Hey, how you doing? Shiver Pod. I'm your biggest fan. I'm gonna break your ankle. Sledgehammer. Wrong movie, but they're a horror
my
movie.
mother might have something to say about the biggest fan thing, but I think aside from my mom and Daniel's mom, you might be our biggest fan. So that's great.
Yes,
you are, I think, one of the most interesting people that we have on this show because you're actually in the horror business. Daniel and I just sit here and talk mad shit about the people who make these movies, and you actually make the movies. So Grasso, what's been going on in your world lately?
well, I know a lot about you guys because I do listen to the Shiver Pod regularly. And the Innkeepers episode, David, I have to ask you something.
Sure.
Because I stopped short when I was listening to it because at one point, quote unquote, and I don't disagree with you guys with the review of the movie. I wasn't a big fan of the film, but I do like Ty West. No disrespect to him.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
We said that over and over.
But you said that you would rather, instead of watching that movie, jerk off and watch your cartoon show than watch that film again.
Did I specify a cartoon show or just
yes? But I'd rather not say because I don't want to get sued by that company because that company's like Cyberdyne Industries. So I go. Does he do this regularly? Like, does he go, like, damn it, I could have been playing with myself and watching my cartoon show at the same time. So,
my litmus test for how interested I am in something is if I would rather be touching myself. If I would rather be playing with myself, your movie's not that interesting. And like you said, I am a big fan of Ty West. I think that Ty West is an incredible filmmaker. I think he's got a lot of talent. I just think that's not a very interesting movie because what is scary is actually very scary. And I think we talked about that in our review of that movie. What really sucks is the fact that like it unlike when you touch yourself, it never allows you to like feel satisfied. No, it leaves you with blue balls, and I'm pretty sure that's what we said at the end.
Ty West is a guy out here making horror movies that I actively touch myself to right now. So how you doing me a goth? Like
right, yeah, and those movies, those X movies, I think have breathed new life into the horror genre in the same way that Ari Aster did with Hereditary, with Midsommar. Like
how Scream did in the late 90s.
100% how Scream did, how Wes Craven did in the mid 80s with A Nightmare on Elm Street, how Sean Cunningham did in 1980 with Friday the 13th. I mean, it is monumental what Ty West has done for horror in the last few years. So I really hope that he doesn't take offense to that. And I know he doesn't give a fuck what I have to say.
Ty West is out here adding our names to his list. He listens to Shiver.
Well, I'm proving to you that I am your biggest fan because I had to rewind that a few times and say, wait a minute. So instead of watching, oh my God, I hope my movie's good enough that he doesn't play with himself during when he watches one of mine. So
well, here's the thing. When I play with myself while I'm watching, that means it's really good.
That means it's really good. Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, that's a compliment. So good. All right. So, but then, all right, wait, you contradict yourself.
So how's how's the Mutilator 2 tour going, man? Last time you were on, let's move past Dave touching. Last time you were on here, you were talking about.
We're gonna put a pin in that. We're gonna come back to that.
Please don't put a pin in
here. We were talking about how you were just kind of like you guys were getting the ball rolling on when Mutilator 2 was going to come out and when we'd be able to see it, and now you're kind of doing like a media tour for it, right? How's that been going?
I've been doing a media tour. An actual media tour for it. I went to London's Fright Fest in UK, met a ton of people, and met a lot of horror fans that were crazy about the first one, and they came specifically to see the second movie from Scotland, Ireland. I met a lot of people from places like Scotland. A gentleman I met said that he was from Wick, but it was spelled W-E-I-C-K-K or something. It was weird like that. And I got yelled at because I said, oh, well, it's being shown in Leicester Square. I said, no, it's Leicester Square, lad. It's Leicester. Yeah, but there's consonants and other verb like vowels. So why don't you use them? The guy but we are actually this Saturday, we are actually doing an on-set cinema thing, which is it's hosted by Myers House, North Carolina. I think the man's name is Kenny Caperton, and he goes to locations where they actually film movies. Where in California, I believe, for the Michael Myers house, he's doing stuff for Scream, and he has done the Mutilator before. So now we're going to Scream Mutilator 2 to 2 sold-out shows, and I'm going to be signing autographs and all that fun stuff.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah. And there is lots of talk about distribution now because we went international, and we got kind of like a super agent. I can't really say anything about that, but
it's out of the bag now.
Well, I didn't say where, so
no, you didn't.
Not yet.
And like I said, it's just my mom and Daniel's mom that are listening anyway. So
and me technically. So
you're on the show tonight.
Yes. But I've been keeping busy with just making an independent film, even if it's not horror, is hard and impossible, basically, because you have to get funds. And I mean, believe me, you could see tons of films on many streaming platforms that they're shot in someone's basement,
right?
And you just, But I'm involved in actually some good projects. I was involved in this film called The Blackest Darkness, which is written by someone here in North Carolina, and it's gotten some good reviews and accolades. You can watch that on Tubi, Fawsome, Apple TV, Prime. I think Fawsome's international as well. But and of course, I play a creep in that one too. So that's kind of typecast. So
and we're
listen, when you're good at what you do,
watching cartoons.
I'm going to play that in a movie one day. Just watch. Where'd you learn that one from? Well, there's this podcast.
there's this real creep that I use as inspiration.
And that's how we got the Carl J. Grasso bump. But man, right. We are super happy to have you back on tonight. We are finishing up our it was supposed to be a month. It turned into 2 weeks of classic movie monsters that we just hadn't got to here in 2024, the year of the monster. And we finishing up October with Sleepy Hollow, a Tim Burton project. So you already know who a chunk of the cast is. But we'll get there. Right? So, I mean, this movie it's been around a while. A lot of people have had a lot of time to sit on it, see multiple times. So I'm going to throw it to you, Carl. Like, what's your kind of initial thoughts on this movie? How long ago did you see it for the first time?
I saw it opening night in 1999.
Hell nice. Yeah.
I'm older than you guys, right? I think.
41?
Yeah, I'm
37.
I'm 22. So, in dog years. It was the biggest trailer after, I guess, Phantom Menace came out in 99.
Yeah.
Of that summer. It kept playing. Like, oh my God, it's Tim Burton, the Headless Horseman, and Tim Burton and Johnny Depp. And oh my God, it's going to be great. Oh, opening night, I was there. Watched the film. The film broke in the middle.
Oh, no.
So we're like, oh, shit. So they actually had to pasted together. This is before digital stuff, so
yeah,
I'm old. It was film, so they had to cut it, crimp it and splice it back together. And we're like, well, we only saw maybe 75 minutes of the movie, and then it was jumping around. So we saw it again. They gave us free passes. So I think we were there like maybe the following weekend or something, and we loved it. We loved it. And that was '99. And there's been different versions of the film. I don't know if it's on Blu-ray right now, but I do have a special edition DVD of it. I think it was released like in 2000, and it made a lot of money. It was a big hit back then.
So after you got to see the whole thing and you've now had all this time to own, I mean, like, what are your kind of thoughts on this movie? Like you went into it with these big expectations based on the trailer. I mean, what do you think of it?
I watch it now after many years, and I kind of have the same feeling that I think it's a good movie. It's good. It's not great. And I wanted it to be great, but I wasn't disappointed, but I was kind of like, well, why did it go that way? And so when I saw it recently, I actually now have my thoughts cemented. And now being in the semi-film business, I kind of get why it went the way it went. Directors, big directors have big ideas. And sometimes they go to the screenwriters. No, we're not going to do that. We're going to do this. And, the screenwriter will go, yeah, but they sound like a frog because it's like, well, where's my script? And he had a great he had a great writer. Well, okay, Washington Irving, yes, wrote the story, of course. But he had Andrew Kevin Walker, who wrote Seven.
Yeah.
And
that ain't nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, that's an amazing script.
He also wrote that Nick Cage movie about the snuff film, 8mm.
8mm, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So somewhere, somehow, some ego took over. And I know it wasn't the writer, because writers don't have that clout unless you're Stephen King or someone who's got that juice. But I kind of went back and looked at some of the trivia in IMDb, and something made sense. He actually wanted to make like a Mario Bava kind of movie. So some of we'll discuss it, but some of the things in the film are very Mario Bava. And now it kind of makes sense where he was trying to go with it. I just wish he didn't do it with the Headless Horseman.
I got you. What about you, Dave? Initial thoughts?
I love this movie, and I have loved this movie for a long, long time. I didn't see it in theaters when it came out, but it was something that I rented at Blockbuster the moment that it was available. So I am a huge Tim Burton fan. I will always be a huge Tim Burton fan, and I don't care how many turds he comes out with.
There's a lot of turds,
though. There are a significant number of turds, and at this point, they almost kind of balance out with like the amazing movies that he's made. The thing with Tim Burton, and I don't think that this is something that anyone can take away from him, is that he is a real artist. And
agreed.
When you are an artist and you have vision, you swing for the fences. Sometimes you knock it out of the park, and sometimes you strike out. And there are pictures he's made that I'm like, I don't know if that one worked, but he definitely tried something. Sometimes there's something that's like so far out of his wheelhouse, and you're like, there's no way this thing works, like Big. And then you watch it and you're like, this is the most beautiful movie I've ever seen. And I think that this movie it feels like a Tim Burton movie while not feeling like a Tim Burton movie. And I think that that's pretty unique, because every time you watch a Tim Burton movie, it's like, Tim Burton, I caught it. You don't know it's him, and you're like, oh, I'm watching Ed Wood for the first time. I don't know anything about this. I came in 10 minutes after the movie started. That's a Tim Burton movie, right? This movie doesn't feel like a classic Tim Burton movie, and yet it does. And part of that is, the cast we're familiar with, the music, but even so, Danny Elfman's score doesn't sound like a traditional Danny Elfman score. There's a lot about this movie that to me feels Tim Burton. And then the other influence that I see a lot of here, which is, I mean, it's no surprise that I love this movie the way that I do when I'm going to say this now is Hammer Pictures. This is a somewhat modern, because it's like 2 decades old at this point. It's a somewhat modern reimagining of a Hammer horror, like a Hammer Studios movie. Everything down to the like corn syrup blood is very, very Hammer. Which is also, now that you say Mario Bava, to me, I'm like, fuck yeah, that makes an awful lot of sense. And there's a lot of shots that I'm like, damn, that's like right out of Blood and Black Lace. So I somehow I never connected the Bava thing. But I love this movie. I love the technical aspects of this movie. I think that it holds up surprisingly well. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Burton is the kind of guy that, at least in those days, preferred to use practical special effects. He only did CGI when he absolutely needed to. And I think that despite the fact that the movie is over 20 years old at this point, I think even the CGI still kind of holds up compared to what we see today. So I love this movie. I'm not bearing the lead. I'm gonna have a hard on the whole time talking about this thing.
Whoa! All right,
and we're back. No, so it was. I saw this movie in theaters in '99. I've seen it once or twice, since then. Watched it for the show now, and I found myself thinking kind of the same thing. Like it stands up. Like I get it. I understand. I was interested in a couple of the things to see if maybe they made like a little bit more sense now that I was older and kind of following more. And I do think that there are places in this movie where there's kind of a disconnect. So hearing you talk about that idea of, somebody coming over the top of somebody else, that does make sense to me, because there are often times in this movie, well, not often, but there are a few times in this movie where, yeah, it feels disjointed from one scene to the next. Like you'll be watching one scene and it kind of has this one identity, and you'll watch another one where it has this another. But that being said, I really do love the idea of, we talk about on the show all the time, when somebody pushes the boundaries of what a horror movie can be, right? And this was essentially Tim Burton saying, okay, so we've got this great idea in The Headless Horseman and Ichabod Crane. What if we could make a horror movie cop drama? Right. And that's what he kind of created. So again, pushing that idea of, it doesn't just have to be a bunch of people running scared from a killer. It doesn't just have to constantly be one way or the other, where he doesn't have to disprove one thing to prove that he's right. Or, it ebbs and flows in and out of horror and cop drama very well. I do appreciate that a lot. But I will say, kind of my biggest takeaway now, watching it at this point in my life, when I've seen this many movies, is there's not a consistent flow to this movie. It's segmented. And so you'll be watching it, and one scene will be really upbeat and kind of great, and there's this good flow, and then just all of a sudden it's like boom, dead stop, and then you get kind of this awkward scene in between, and then it's back. And I'm not taking too much away from the movie because of that, but it definitely does stand out. I did really enjoy going back and rewatching this. We'll get to her when we get to the cast, but I'm gonna watch anything with Christina Ricci in it until the day I die. And I'm gonna be hard pressed to say anything negative about any of those movies. I'll try, but I will not say anything negative about my queen, Christina. However,
you're on a first name basis.
Yeah. In my dreams, big guy, in my dreams. And so I I do feel like I picked up a little bit more on some things. My time doing this show, my experience with watching movies now, a couple things that I had kind of glossed over before hit me a little bit differently this time. But I did enjoy this. I think that it was an undertaking, right, to try to attack Sleepy Hollow and the legend of the Headless Horseman. And ultimately, I think it was pulled off very well.
So let's kind of just jump right into it, because it seems like the few issues, because I'm not getting the sense that like anyone hated this thing, but the few issues that that we have to do with things like story, pacing, stuff like that. So in a section that we're calling "Can You Make Heads or Tails of It?" It's my attempt at a rim shot.
Or something else.
Sure. I mean, whatever at this point, this show's gone so far off the rails.
Why don't you control yourself, and then maybe we could get back to business. But
I wish I could. I wish I could. But so since Carl, since we're already talking here, what is it about this story that for you either works or doesn't work, or kind of meh, sort of works? Obviously,
it's confusing.
Washington Irving wrote a classic with this, but this is an interpretation of that story.
Well, the story is actually in the movie itself. They actually have like a 3-minute piece where Ichabod Crane, played by Johnny Depp, runs from the Horseman, but it turns out to be Casper Van Diem, who's
Brom.
Thank you, the character. That's the story in the and then it moves on to the Horseman chasing Ichabod Crane. I love the beginning where Ichabod Crane is a forensic detective, and you kind of expect him to use his forensic detective skills to detect. And then now the Mario Bava piece kind of now makes sense, because Mario Bava used to do that. Like there'd be, a professional doctor, detective, whatever, going to a place, and that profession could not help that character, battle the supernatural. That character now believes in the supernatural, as Ichabod Crane does in this movie. But what kind of confuses it, not even just the plot, because the plot's like, well, if this didn't happen, then why did this happen? Or why didn't you just have the Horseman do this instead of that? What kind of doesn't work is Ichabod Crane's character arc and development. I mean, there's some hilarious scenes where Johnny Depp puts the young boy in front of him when it's going into something scary, and then the next scene, like he's Neo and Morpheus, and they're fighting, the Horseman with like swords and stuff. Granted, that's Ray Park, who's a nice guy. I met him in Pennsylvania. But
that's always good to hear.
No, he's very generous with his fans. I met him in Creature Feature Weekend, Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and there was a line of children waiting to meet Darth Maul, and he was very generous with his time. Very nice man.
And Toad. Let's not forget that he is also Toad in X-Men.
Yes, that is true. That is true. And the Horseman.
And the Horseman,
has some good skills with the ninja fighting between Casper Van Diem and Johnny Depp. But why would Johnny Depp now fight with the Horseman with swords and stuff and pitchforks when he pushed the boy in front of him because he was scared? So, and that happens a few times in the movie. Like his character is not solid, and that's where I get the rewrites from, and the love story between Daniel's beloved Christina Ricci and him just didn't gel, because it was that felt forced, and I felt like that could have even been developed much better, but something just wasn't gelling somewhere, and that kind of gave me pause. But what's cool is the Horseman. Like, you just want to see him.
Yeah, I do. I love the way that the story develops. Like what you were talking about, that Bava element of him getting to town convinced that, this is just, oh, I'm finally going to prove that forensics is where it's at. Right. We don't just have to torture people or, throw them in cells. We can prove how crimes happen. And so he gets there. That scene where he first arrives in Sleepy Hollow, and all the village elders are in the room talking, and he goes around and he's doing the very like Sherlock Holmes type thing where he's in everybody's face.
Yep.
3 murders. 2 weeks, and he like just right up in Gandalf's face, and Uncle Dursley just right here on top of everybody. And then he gets in Alfred's face. I'm sure they've got names in the movie too.
Michael Goff, Michael Gambon.
But
great cast, by the way.
Oh yeah,
amazing
cast.
Yeah. Can't wait to get there. But so you start off, and he's got that great overbearing persona of I'm going to prove this. And so you're kind of sitting there as the movie starts, wondering how supernatural is this going to get, or is he going to prove that this is just the dude with 2 pillows strapped to his head, right? And so I did really like the progression there of watching him come to terms with the fact that science and the supernatural can both exist within this world, and that the knowledge of both is ultimately what saves the day. When it's all said and done, the fact that he is a very good forensic detective, and that he has the knowledge of the supernatural as handed to him by Christina Ricci, that those 2 things could meld. And so watching him kind of come to grips with putting all of that together, I think was a really interesting way to tell the story. Now, like I said, I didn't know anything about the Bava stuff, and so I've only seen 1 or 2 of his movies. But I do know what you're talking about with those influences being there. So I thought that was really cool. But I'm with you in the fact that the relationship between the 2 of them, it felt awkward, right? Like Katrina and Ichabod, when they finally get to the scene where she's so upset with him because he's ready to accuse his father, it felt so off when she delivers that line, and she's like, and to think I was ready to give my heart to you, or to give mine to you. It didn't sit right. Like, I felt like we had not gotten a proper arc to get us to this point where she would be quite that upset. So that was a little bit off for me. But watching it develop like an Ellery Queen mystery, I do love that. I really do love if you remove that romantic element to it, because those were the scenes that always kind of just rubbed me wrong. Yeah. And you're just watching the progression of him solving it. I think that part of the story was extremely well done. I do love that we even got the fake out ending, like, oh, okay, we're good now. Everybody who's supposed to die is dead. And it very much was like something you would read in one of these classic detective novels. And
when I saw it in the theater and that happened, and Ichabod Crane's in the coach, somebody yelled out, very New Yorkie, basically said, "You gotta be fucking kidding me!" And he threw his popcorn at the screen and left. And I'm like, wait, yeah, you better not be fucking kidding me. Is the movie over? And then he realizes about the twist.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, that one of the other things that I used to watch with my mom besides horror movies, like I said, was Ellery Queen, and it was every episode went like that, right? And then it's evolved into House and all of these things. Now it's solved until it's not, and they did a really good job with that, because they went a step further. They got him in the coach. They had him leaving before he put it all together, and I really did like the detective element of this. Second only, of course, to just, you're right, anytime the actual horseman was on the screen, like there's awesome. Always needed that.
Man, I love that this story is so disjointed.
Okay.
Really?
I got to tell you, I think it works because I may not have put together the Mario Bava thing, but I feel like Hammer and those giallos of the 70s go hand in hand. And those giallos were oftentimes very much like 40s film noirs. Story didn't matter. And there were all sorts of plot holes that never got wrapped up. And in the end, you didn't care because someone was dead, someone was holding a gun, and someone looked really fucking cool. And that is what this movie's all about.
Agreed.
And to me, this movie does that in spades, man. Like it is so fucking cool. To me, this is.
But who's cool?
Ichabod is really fucking cool.
Really?
Yeah, and he's a loser too, and that's the really awesome thing. Because if you go back to those giallos, you see this all the time, right? The one that I constantly go back to is a Deep Red.
That's
right?
great.
Dario Argento. David Hemming is a fucking nerd in that movie. All right, he's a giant fucking nerd. He's a writer. All right. He's literally a grammar nerd. All right. And through all these twists and turns that in the end make no fucking sense, and we end up right back where we started, we love every single twist and turn. The ending of Tenebrae still to this day makes no fucking sense to me.
Not a goddamn bit.
And you know what else doesn't make any sense to me? How much
anything
I fucking
from
love it.
anything Umberto Lenzi did or
right, but this is my point. If we're thinking right, the influence here is Bava, right?
Yes.
I mean, Bava is the grandfather of the giallo, right? From Bava, we get Argento, we get Fulci, we get everybody from there. This is exactly what he's this is exactly what he's doing, except that where it's taking place is not modern day Europe like all those giallos did. It's taking place in the time in which a Hammer horror movie would have taken place. And in fact, we even have Christopher Lee at the beginning of the movie, right? We've got Count fucking Dracula here to set the tone and let us know, like, hey, this is the world that we're playing in. I love the detective aspect of this. I think he's a rather good detective. I think he's a rather nervous person, but a good detective. And that is pretty much how Washington Irving described him in the original, the tale of Ichabod Crane.
He was a school teacher, though.
He was a school teacher, but he was a good school teacher. And he was very awkward. He was very awkward. He was very weird, but there was something about him that drew people to him. So to me, it wasn't odd that Christina Ricci would immediately be drawn to him, because she kind of was in the original story too. And he was really fucking weird in the original story. And to me, I think the only flaw I can see with this movie, and it was something that I thought of back when the movie first came out, and I think it's exaggerated even more today because of the society that we're living in. The age difference between Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp is noticeable. It's noticeable, and it's not just noticeable. I think it is problematic. And
it's borderline. It's borderline.
If it's not problematic, it borders on problematic. She's a legal adult, so like it's not weird, I guess, legally, but it's really fucking weird to see her at, as a 19-year-old like fawning over Johnny Depp, who is like almost 40 at that point when he makes this movie. So it's a drastic age difference. I don't allow that to get in the way of my enjoyment of the movie, because I mean we're talking about something that's 2 decades old at this point, 2 decades plus. So different time, doesn't excuse the thing, but you do have to watch and read and listen to things through the lens of the time in which it was made. And I think that is the only quibble that I have with this movie, because I think that she knocks it out of the park. So does Johnny Depp. And I feel like, although I would have preferred to have this be the, ultra classic Helena Bonham Carter and Johnny Depp, Hollywood would not have allowed that.
She wasn't that big. She did Fright Night. Oh my God. She did Fight Club.
Fight Club.
At the time, and she was getting bigger at the time. She's always been around since the 80s, but like she wasn't
right.
Helen Bonham Carter.
No, and she and Tim Burton were not an item yet at that point.
He was married to Lisa Marie, who was in this movie.
Yeah, he was married to Lisa Marie at that point.
Lady Crane was who he was married to at this
so
point.
I think there's a really great job at unraveling a mystery that doesn't matter here. There's a really great job at setting the tone and the mood, which I think is done spectacularly. That's something that, Burton lives in Mood Town.
Right.
So it's amazing to see Tim Burton trees without seeing Tim Burton trees. And it's amazing to see Tim Burton monsters without seeing Tim Burton monsters. To me, it does, like you say, Carl, it does represent the worst about the studio system, because quite clearly this was a studio kind of moving its chess pieces in and saying, like, let's do this and let's do this. How much Burton is at fault here versus how much the studio is at fault here? I've never read the original script, so I don't know how much that is at fault here. What I know is that regardless of the like this crazy melting pot of stuff that is here, for me personally, it works. And I understand why it doesn't work for a lot of people. And I know it works for both of you too. But I understand why there's a significant group of people that like have never even seen this movie and have no interest in watching this movie. But for me, this is one that I come back to, I'm not going to say every year, but I come back to it quite often. And in fact, I'd like to do a double feature with this and Sweeney Todd. For some reason, I think that those are two Tim Burton pictures that like don't feel like Tim Burton pictures, and where Johnny Depp just knocks it out of the park, because he really is a spectacular actor. And it's great to go back in time and see him pre Captain Jack Sparrow, because I feel like Captain Jack Sparrow kind of took over Johnny Depp. And while I love, in particular, that first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, it's spectacular. It's stellar. I think it is one of the best adventure movies that's ever been made. He's much more than Captain Jack. And he's more than Edward Scissorhands. Like, he is a real good actor. And we see that here. And I think he captures a lot of the complexity that's hinted at by Irving in this movie.
One of the things that you were talking about seeing
as an actor.
Go ahead. No, you're good. You're good.
Well, I was just saying, as an actor, I do respect Johnny Depp to a point, but it seems like it might be just because of Tim Burton. Like, he just kept playing cartoon characters for a long time.
Yeah, I see that.
And I like when he's not a cartoon character all the time, and he could do something good. Like, if you've ever seen the film Blow, like, he's amazing.
Oh my God, spectacular.
Yeah.
Crushing.
But you were talking about it's fun to see Tim Burton trees that aren't Tim Burton trees. One of the moments during this movie that I just love so much is when he visits the witch in the woods, and he goes into the cave and she straps herself up. Yeah. Yes, and she straps herself up and everything, and then the veil comes up, and we get the special effect that's straight out of Beetlejuice. Like that one was just.
Oh, see, I thought Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah.
Yes,
it's very large Marge. It is. Large Marge.
But also Beetlejuice. Yeah, I mean, it's all of it. You know, his DNA's in there.
Yeah. And so it's just like, it's like immediately, like as soon as it happens, every time I'm like, this is a Beetlejuice gag, and I'm not mad at it. Like I'm literally wearing Beetlejuice socks right now. Like there's, like, I'm never gonna.
What else are you wearing?
Just Beetlejuice socks, baby boy.
He can't stand up.
I love coming on this show.
But I do every time that moment hits, and it's like, oh God, this is so much fun. And that's right, this is a Tim Burton movie.
Here's what's not a Tim Burton movie, which this is why I give a check mark to this movie. Here's what's not part of a Tim Burton like you would think. The scene close to the end with the church when a fucking spike goes through Michael Gambon and rips him through the church.
Yeah,
that is one of the best fucking kills I've ever seen.
It's hard, man. Yeah,
that's worthy of like Mr. Jason here. I mean, it's just fucking that's awesome. Like, why can't we have that again? That's great.
Yes, the
kills are spectacular in this movie.
They really are.
They really are.
It's rated R in this movie.
And I love the explanation of his sword like being charged with hellfire to explain why there's not gore every time he takes a head. Like it's this one little like throwaway line, but it's like, but then you go, oh, okay, well, that makes a lot of sense.
That.
And then when we do get the kill where the fence post goes through him, there's a lot of blood because it's not the sword, it doesn't cauterize. That's just, you just got impaled by a fence post, Chief. Like that's and so, it's one, it's a spectacular kill, but two, because it is one of the gorier ones, it just continues to sell this story that they were telling us that essentially even before being the headless horseman, that the Hessian was essentially a minion of hell. And so the horseman just became an extension of who he was. And they do a really good job with that, with something like the fence post kill. With the way that, God, man, so many little things, and we'll get to the horseman, but there are so many little things about the way that every scene with the horseman plays out that really do sell the shit out of this movie. So, and like we said at the beginning, I mean, all of those scenes are can't miss. Those are the ones where you don't pick up your phone. When they're having a conversation about family trees or wills, and you're kind of, it's kind of like reading the Silmarillion. It's like, I'm sure something's going to happen soon, right? Other than just listing people's names. But the beautiful thing is that it doesn't matter. None of it matters. Like, yes, there's a family tree. Could you pay attention in this scene? Yes. Could you also like realize, oh shit, I got to go refill my popcorn, and go get your popcorn at that moment and come back and still be in the moment? Yes, you can, because ultimately the only thing that matters is who was controlling the horseman. And when that's revealed, it will be an amazing moment for everyone in the theater, and no one will see it coming because nothing in the story hints at it. And that's classic Giallo. You will never see where the Giallo is going. Why? Because nothing hinted at. Right.
There's no little like crumb trail that's leading back to like, aha, you remember this thing? I go back to Deep Red, right? In Deep Red, when he remembers that he saw, oh no, that wasn't a painting, that was a reflection in the mirror, and there was this like corpse looking person. Like, we didn't fucking see that in the beginning of the movie. You know how many times I've rewatched that movie? Motherfucker's not there. Not there.
But they do that in this one too, where like,
of course,
I don't want to give it away, but the killer gives the speech, the talking killer speech, and you're like, wait, what? Wait, where? Wait, huh? Wait, what? Okay, where's the horse?
And then,
oh, there it is. Okay,
right, and then I do always love a villain monologue that includes cutaways to all the devious shit that they did behind the scenes.
This was James Bond, though.
And that is executed masterfully at the end of this movie when she's like, hey, now that we're here, let me tell you about how, like Dave keeps saying, nothing you've watched matters.
Oh, here comes the horseman. It's fine. Come here.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the horseman. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. We're back around.
I realized that they did do this with the rise of Leslie Vernon, but I would love to see a Friday the 13th movie where we actually get to see Jason setting up all the shit. All these little traps and these knickknacks that he lays out for people. Like, I want to see him set it up and then just do this. Just waiting for somebody.
Just breaks a window while they run at a rake that he's expertly placed on the ground.
Yeah.
The film that we were talking about before, A Violent Nature, is kind of like that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that is true. A Violent Nature does kind of give you that aspect. So there we go. So
Nice.
we keep dropping all these names. We keep talking about these great performances that are given to us. So let's get to these names. Let's get to this cast, because it is star-studded, to say the absolute least. Dave, you start us off, man. Who you want to talk about first?
I kind of feel like I need to let you talk about Christina Ricci. But okay, so I'll listen, I guess I'll do Miranda Richardson.
Yes.
Yeah.
As Lady Van Tassel is exactly who she needs to be. She plays Lady of the House so perfectly, and she plays creepy, corpsey witch, like wood witch, perfectly. And she manages to play the conniving femme fatale masterfully. Every single role that she plays, she's the only character that plays multiple roles in this movie, and she does it masterfully. It's really, really great. On top of the fact that she's another person that I've been in love with for forever. All right. Because like you go back to like Merlin and like some of her early work, and like, dude,
Addams Family.
Yeah. And dude, maybe I'm the only one here, but anyone ever see Blackadder?
I have not.
With Mr. Bean, Rowan Atkinson. Yeah, it's like the pre-Mr. Bean show that he did for BBC, or was it ITV? I can't remember now. She is.
Brenda Richardson was part of the cast.
Yeah, she's in every season, just like he is, even though it like jumps in time. And she's fantastic. She's always great. She is like just sexy enough in this movie so that you aren't distracted by her, because then she's the femme fatale the whole movie. And you're like, oh no, well, it's got to be her, right? But our eyes are constantly drawn to Christina Ricci. And I think that's a great like rhetorical choice by Burton to be like, okay, you are the femme fatale, but you're not playing the femme fatale for this movie. You're not playing that like Sophia Loren character. You're going to be much more demure. And she does that really well. She's very unassuming the whole movie. And yet I totally buy into the, like, you know, haha, it was my plan all along sort of thing. Like it was so great. The reveal was so good. And I think that the scariest moment in this movie belongs to her as the Wood Witch. It's just spectacular. And the way that this movie ties in, and again, I've said it multiple times, story doesn't matter, but the way that they tie her character and her sister into the Headless Horseman, going all the way back to the beginning, it's another classic noir, classic giallo move where it's like, oh, you're all tied together. It's like, they didn't need to be. Did you have to do that? No, you didn't. I'll fucking go along with it. Sure, yeah, that was the little girl in the woods that snapped the twig, and she was, from the very beginning, she was putting the whole thing together. Sure, I'll go along with it, man. That's straight out of Out of the Past. That's straight out of what's this one? Double Indemnity. I mean, you go all the way back to like those classic noirs, which the giallo's just doing like a sexier, bloodier version of, and that shit's classic. It's timeless, and she plays that role perfectly.
Yeah, I do love that transition that we get out of her at the end, because it is stark. Like that, from when she stops being Lady of the House and she starts being evil mastermind. It is bondish. It is all of these things, you know, where yeah, like you said, that it was me all along. Like the way she pulls that off expertly. And yeah, I thought that she was really, really good at that. I'm gonna go ahead and look. I'm gonna do it. Like, so Christina Ricci in this movie, right? So this movie is 2 years removed from That Darn Cat and some things like that. This is right as Christina Ricci was making this transition into adult roles, where she wasn't just a
Wednesday
random
Addams
teenager. Yeah, she wasn't Wednesday Addams. This is a year before this. She was in Fear and Loathing and the Opposite of Sex, right? She was, and that's because she had turned 18 that year, and so she she was like, all right, well, let's do the damn thing. It's bizarre to me how it works that she's so kind of awkward, but she's awkward in a very different way than Ichabod Crane is. As we learn more about Katrina as this movie rolls forward, it stops being less jarring that she's awkward, and it starts to make sense. We get this story of how her mother was a very different person than her stepmother, and she's carrying on this legacy, and she ends up playing this fish out of water in her own town, because she is in this very religious small Dutch community, and she's still kind of holding on to the old ways, right? She's still hanging on to these lessons that her mother taught her. And I did really, really enjoy that. And she does a really good job in this of not being damsel in distress, but also not, turning into Red Sonja and saving the day. She rides that line really well where she can hold her own. But man, that fucking scene, like, it's so good until like that last line, which just kind of I didn't like it that much. But that scene when she's burning the evidence and she just goes in on Johnny Depp about how it's bullshit that he would even dream of accusing her father and all of this, and it like I said, it's like back-to-back lines, because I mentioned the one earlier that kind of bothers me because it felt disjointed, but right before that he says something along the lines of, it was very brave of you to follow me into the Western Wood that night. And then she just fucking decks him with the, well, if you honestly think it's my father who's controlling the horsemen, then how brave must I actually be? Oh, shit. I love that line so much. And she just knocks it out of the park, man. She's so good at so many things she does. And it's interesting now to go back and see these roles when she was transitioning out of Casper and those types of movies, and she was like, you know what, I'm more than just a teenage actress. Like, I'm a fucking actress, and I'm gonna show you that I can do the thing. And this one came on the heels of a bunch of really good opportunities to do that, and I think that she capitalized on that.
Carl,
who you got, Carl?
Christopher Walken is actually the Headless Horseman.
Okay, so let's go into then the monster with classics never die. So let's talk about Christopher Walken as the Horseman.
The makeup on him, he's got razor sharp teeth. I mean, it's part of the story. He's the Hessian warrior, and he's killing people, kind of like Vlad the Impaler.
Yeah, right.
The Hessian horseman who takes the heads. That's awesome. And what happens to him with which is also in the plot with the Wood Witch and the killer. Are we actually saying who the killer is?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. I don't want to ruin it for people who haven't seen it, but then why would they be listening to a podcast?
The movie's 25 years old at this point. It's on you if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, all right, fuck it in. All right, it's Miranda Richardson. It was great, by the way. Like, all his little, Tim, he called me and I wanted to play the horseman. I don't usually play people on horses because I don't use horses. I'm from Jersey, so I don't know. But I get to kill a lot of people, so why not? The monster is this movie. I mean, I know you like Ichabod, but when he's on there, and they shot this in Pinewood, on stages.
Right.
So they actually had these giant Italian horses going like 50 whatever miles an hour, dragging Johnny Depp with a Kevlar vest. He did the stunts at the end of the film where like he's jumping off the coach and everything, and he's hanging on to that. Brave Johnny's braver than I am, because I wouldn't be doing that, because horses are not. They don't have safety features. Horses, they're gonna run you over. They're gonna kill you.
Right. Absolutely.
Sorry, Johnny. But
they're 1,500 pounds of muscle with the brain of a 3-year-old. I'll have nothing to do with them.
Flooring it through a fucking soundstage. A big one, Pinewood, but like, can you see them ripping through walls to like the next James Bond movie in the next set? Can you imagine that? And what was the 90s? So like,
I was going to say, so this
Brosnan
is
had to get out of the way.
Pierce Brosnan diving.
A fucking horse just went by, and Christopher Walken. What the hell? But this is why this movie gets a thumbs up from me. It's like, you got to see the parts where he's in, and he's only on set for maybe a week, maybe 2. And like where they got him dressed up as it is amazing. The ending, like you just see his face and he kisses Miranda Richardson and blood flies out.
What a great moment.
It's epic. And Ray Park, not to kill Ray Park, but Ray Park is amazing as the stunt, the stunt horseman, I guess.
Right.
I don't know what you call that.
Well, and outside of just the idea that it's Christopher Walken, the way that they built the legend of the Horseman, right? And they tell this story of the Hessian and all that, but then the idea of him being controlled makes it this really interesting character, because you get a guy who, when he's first presented to us, is a monster of a human being. And then when we eventually find out that he's being controlled, it adds so much to that mythos of it, to this idea that he can be told what to do, that he is a murdering machine, but he's doing it on demand, his free will being removed since somebody holds his head. The idea that I get in my head when I watch this movie is the Hessian was good to just chill in hell. He was at peace with that. Like,
I like being in hell.
He's just like, he was in his element. He was good. So when you start adding the idea that he's being controlled, and you get this concept of he's really reluctantly doing this shit that he's amazing at, you start to think, if he's just kind of lazily doing this because he's just taking out random villagers and because he has to, what was this guy like when he was just a dude who was like, go to war? Fuck yes.
Sail across that sea to go to war.
Yeah.
I'm your fucking man.
Yeah. As long as I get to bring Daredevil with me, we're a team.
And we got to stop at the Starbucks before we go to kill some people.
Also, I love the idea that the Headless Horseman's horse is in hell with him. It's like, no, you're evil too, and I fucking know that. Like,
it's like a boy and his dog. You don't separate a boy from his dog.
It's like who's more evil?
Daredevil did carry him willingly.
Yes.
So Daredevil had a lust for blood too. I almost lament that he wasn't given a speaking role.
I think it's funny that he's not funnier, but him just going.
I mean, what Christopher Walken has become known for, and at this point was already known for, because after Deer Hunter, Christopher Walken stopped acting. He did not act after Deer Hunter. He was just Christopher Walken.
Oh,
right.
All the time. Before Deer Hunter, dude could fucking act. I mean, he's got an Oscar.
David, Daniel, did you ever see the film Communion?
No.
I don't think I've seen that.
Okay, we're going to be doing that soon.
Okay.
Watch that on Tubi. Every Christopher Walken-ism is in that film. Everything you could think of it. It's based on a novel of somebody who was abducted by aliens. So they got somebody who they thought was abducted by aliens. So
makes sense.
Communion. For everybody listening, Communion on Tubi. Watch it right now.
Putting it on the list.
You put it on now.
I would have loved to have actually seen him be Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman, so that we can get those lines like the ones you're doing. Like I in my head, that's the only version of this movie that's better.
I'm a horseman.
Than what we got.
And I don't have a head. I don't care that I'm not done talking. Because I'm from King of New York. He both had a gun for some reason. I didn't kill anyone since 1664. But it's a cameo because he worked with Tim Burton before.
You shot me with that gun. What is your problem, man?
He was in oh my God, he worked with Tim Burton before in Batman Forever. No,
yeah.
Oh my God,
Batman, Max Shrek.
He was Max Shrek in
Batman Returns. He was Max Shrek.
He was the biggest villain in that. He was scary in that movie.
He was, he really was scary. When he pushes her out the window in that movie and then just turns around and oh man.
Yeah. Yeah, being a grown-up is when you're old enough to be more terrified of Max Shrek than the other two. Like, again, it's like our alien thing. It's like, oh, capitalism is the villain here.
And like, wait, what? No, really, capitalism is.
I want to see him or hear him say Hellfire, but it's got to be said in the same way that he says Foo Fighters. Yeah, Hellfire. Like Foo Fighters, Hellfire.
What was the music video he danced in?
That was a Fatboy Slim video.
Fatboy Slim. Yeah. Imagine him in the Horseman getup doing that. I'm dancing.
Wow. Oh man. But it's still it's still contemporary. Like it's not old school. He's just the Headless Horseman in that time
with the horse going
up going up the escalator.
Weapon of choice was that Fatboy Slim song. But yeah, he was. I love that. I see, and this is somewhere where I disagree with you, Dave, because while yes, it would be funnier, and it would be interesting to see Walken do that. I think that the idea of
I'm joking, man. No, he's imposing the way he is.
Yeah.
If he speaks, then it becomes Christopher Walken, and it's not the Headless Horseman.
He does the thing, which is pretty creepy.
Yeah,
shushes the little girls.
Those teeth, man. Those teeth, like that. God, he is like you're talking about. Just we've seen Christopher Walken do so many things, but God, he is fucking horrifying.
He looks like a Tim Burton monster.
Yes,
like you compare him to like what I think the inspiration for his look was when Beetlejuice turns into a snake in the original Beetlejuice movie. His hair is all crazy like that. His teeth are filed down. His eyes are just a little bit bulgier than normal. That's what Christopher Walken looks like in this movie. He is the Beetlejuice snake in human form. You just don't get to see that fucking head most of the time. So I personally think that this is one of the most iconic monsters in the pantheon of monsters. Not that this iteration of it is, but the Headless Horseman is something that like we don't do it every year, but we like to go to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween in Disney World. We take the kids and stuff, and the parade for that night is opened up by the Headless Horseman. And I'll tell you something, man, as a full-grown adult with children, when you see the Headless Horseman walk down Main Street or ride down Main Street, wow, man, it hits you and you're just like, man, that's fucking scary. And that's the Disney version of the Headless Horseman.
Right. But it's then mellowed when Mr. Toad comes behind him. You're like oh, okay, that's right. This is the Disney one.
Tally ho!
So the Headless Horseman's kind of a Disney princess? Is that what you're saying? Kind of?
I think Ichabod Crane is the Disney princess.
I think the Ichabod Crane is the Disney princess here. Yeah, I think without a doubt. And we glossed over him in cast, but he did get a good amount in story. But I do think we should get back to Ichabod Crane just a little bit before we wrap here. But I'm going to let you start this one off, Dave, because you were talking about how much you love that he's, a nerd.
His version of Ichabod, I think, is pretty accurate to the original Washington Irving story. And yes, he is a school teacher in the original Washington Irving story, and he uses his charm to get his way.
And the legendary charm of us school teachers.
Yeah. And like when he's described right. when he's described in the original Washington Irving story, it's like, this is one goofy looking motherfucker, right? He's got this gigantic nose and these huge ears, and he's got this weird sort of like walk to him. He's described almost perfectly and accurately in the Disney Tale of Ichabod Crane. But I think that even though Johnny Depp is like obviously Johnny Depp, he's one of the heartthrobs of the 80s and 90s, he does kind of get to some of that awkwardness. The way that he moves, it has gigantic strides. Like, yes. Wow, like that's so fucking nerdy, and it's so awkward the way he's just like no one else is there. It reminded me a lot of Willem Dafoe in Boondock Saints.
I would, I see that one. You know what else it reminds me of? Humperdinck in The Princess Bride. When he's recreating the fencing scene.
Yeah.
That was I was like, oh, it's giving Humperdinck like right now.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
It was an incredible
Clue.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There we go. When he has to reenact the entire movie. Yeah.
So yeah, I think he does a great job. Does he bring the awkwardness and the charm together perfectly? I'm gonna give Grasso that point here. No, I don't think he does, but I also think it's impossible to do that because there is a dichotomy to Ichabod Crane. He is equal parts like nerdy, awkward school teacher, right? Because he does actually like explain what he's doing the whole time. Very non Sherlock Holmesian, right? He because we're always in Watson's head, and Watson is the one who's asking him. He's like, so what are you doing now? Right? Like he voluntarily teaches people, like he wants people to know, like, yes, well, this chemical actually is, there's going to be a reaction, and when this happens, and blah blah blah. He does that really, really well. But then he's also, to use the term that the kids, that the youngins are using these days, he is kind of a Riz Lord here, because he really is. He's dude, Christina Ricci.
Yeah, I mean,
why would she want to be with him? And it's because there's something more to him than just
21 Jump Street.
It might be why. That might be why. But I think that there's a charisma to him, that there's a confidence to him, which comes through even in the most awkward moments, that he is so sure of himself. In fact, there's only one moment, I think, in the entire movie when he's not sure of himself, and it's immediately after he sees the horseman, when he's in the bed and he's like slowly bringing the sheets up higher and higher over his chest. And he's like, no, but he was real, and I saw him. Like, that's it. It's a really great moment because it's the only time he's not certain of what's happening. He knows what he saw. He knows that it has to be true, but he can't explain it. And I love that he has that sort of very deductive mind there. It is very Holmesian. You pointed that out, Daniel, and I think that is likely the biggest inspiration for the role, because he's got his his tics and his quirks and stuff. But it to me, this is a great performance. I'm not even gonna say good. I think it's a great performance. It's and not just a great performance, but on an average level, like if you're taking averages of actors, but a great depth performance. I think that especially since Pirates, it's very easy to overlook Depp as an actor the same way that it is for Walken. It's very easy to think of Walken as a cartoon character, and yet you go back and you do watch Deer Hunter, and you're like, wow, I get why he won a fucking Oscar, because the dude can fucking act. So can Depp, and this is a great example of that.
Yeah, I love how like you're talking about how the Venn diagrams of who he is it's like they never overlap. It's he's one or he's the other. He's either the guy who just grabs whatever farming equipment he can to help fight the horsemen, or he's the guy that puts a small child in front of him while entering a witch's cave and holding, his flintlock pistol. But
that's one
does. There's I do kind of love Dave, you were talking about how you love how this movie's disjointed. I do kind of love how there's never a moment where we see him go from like one to the other. There's it's not like there's this development where where he suddenly realizes he has to be a badass, and we see him get better at it. It's just like he's just always,
I think he remembers.
Yeah.
He remembers, I am an officer of the law.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm jumping in and I'm going to fight this guy, because you, Sir Brom, are a fucking idiot.
Right.
And you aren't listening to me when I tell you he's not trying to fight you. So stop being big man in town and just listen to me and give up.
Yeah, but I think that the scene in this movie that sold exactly how good of a Depp performance it was for me is when he wakes up from the fever dream after being stabbed, and he's had the full flashback to what happened to his mom, and he looks at the scars on his hands, and it says, I'm remembering things I wish I hadn't, and then he tells the story of what happened to his mom now that it's all kind of rushed back on him. And he, my mother was a child of nature, and he gives that whole thing about what led him to be the man that he is today. That little monologue that he does right there, I was like, yeah, no, this, again, like you said, you do occasionally forget that Johnny Depp can absolutely act his ass off. It's easy to forget that now. After, between movies and what's been going on with him in his personal life, it is easy to forget that this guy didn't just wake up, get cast as Jack Sparrow, and then, get rocketed to the stratosphere. Like he put in the work and left us with a lot of scenes and a lot of really great moments that got him to where he is.
I agree. I mean, one of his best performances is in Ed Wood. I mean,
100%. I think it is his best performance.
Yeah, he's not really playing a cartoon character, because Ed Wood kind of sounded like that, and acted like that. But if you're in Loathing in Las Vegas, I mean, is one of, I think, the top two for me, and maybe, like I was said before, below. Johnny Depp is a talented artist. There's no doubt about that.
Perfect.
Well, I mean, I guess that's it. I guess we pretty much covered it up. Yeah. So now's the point in the show where we rate this movie. If you are new to the show, or you just need a reminder, we don't believe the movies should be rated against each other, only what they are presenting to us with themselves. So we don't use stars, buckets of popcorn, or anything like that. We create a unique rating system for each movie. And Carl, as the guest, you get to create the unique rating system for Sleepy Hollow. So what are we going out of a possible 5 today?
So we are going with, because we didn't discuss this, Johnny Depp's horse in the film, Ichabod Crane's horse, is named Gunpowder. And it's when he slaps the ass of the horse, like literally powder comes off it. It's hilarious. So we're gonna do Gunpowder. 5 out of
Puffs
5 top puffs of gunpowder.
Puffs of gunpowder. Okay, Carl.
Like
so
there you go.
That's a great one. Out of a possible 5 puffs of gunpowder, what do you give Sleepy Hollow?
I got to keep it honest. Out of 5, I'm going to give it a 4 because of some of the problems, but I recommend this movie highly. I think just the pacing issues. If it came out a crisp 90, I think I would watch this every week. You know what I mean? It needs to flow. It needs to move, kind of thing. But that last 20 minutes where the mill explodes and there's a horse buggy chase scene and Christopher Walken comes back as the horseman, that fight scene, and he takes Miranda Richardson into the tree. Gold.
Yeah.
That's gold. So yes, I would definitely recommend this movie and 4 Puffs of Gunpowder. Go watch it.
All right, Dave.
Before I do that, you mentioned the windmill scene. Yes. I love that the person in all of existence who loves Frankenstein most is Tim Burton, and somehow manages to put a little bit of Frankenstein in everything. That is, I think, one of the best scenes in the whole movie.
Frankenweenie.
I was just
I fucking love Frankenweenie, man.
Too.
Which is fucking stellar. Like
it is.
Yeah, like I had it. If we had done Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as we had planned, I had a whole bit about how much I would. I mean, while I enjoyed it, maybe I'd rather watch Frankenweenie. Like, you know,
that's not a maybe. That's not a maybe.
That's Frankenweenie. Watch Frankenweenie.
The feature length stop motion film and the live action short film.
Oh,
both amazing.
Yes,
amazing.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm giving this 5. This is 5 puffs of gunpowder. I love this movie. It's no secret that I pray at the altar of Tim Burton. He is, I think, one of the most important people in my childhood, one of the most important people in my teenage years, and even as an adult, I continue to go back and drink from the well of Tim Burton's filmography. And just today, I picked up the kids. We came home, and we hadn't seen enough Halloween movies. And when Link says, "Hey, what are we gonna do, man? Because we gotta fucking do Halloween," I'm like, "All right, well, let's put on Nightmare Before Christmas." And I had tried it a couple of weeks ago with Wes, the little guy, and he just wasn't into it. But today he sat through the whole fucking thing. And so I still today continue to go back to Tim Burton. And have I loved all the stuff he's done? No. Looking at you, Dumbo. All right. But this one I think is stellar. It's amazing. It stands head and shoulders above every other version of this story. I would rather watch this than, I mean, I don't know that there's been very many versions of the Headless Horseman, but this is, I think, when we're talking about like American mythology, I don't think there's anything more iconic than this. Because like, yeah, there's plenty of other cryptid movies from classic monsters. Just a couple weeks ago, we did Bigfoot. And I think that this is, if someone says, what's an American horror story? This is what I'm putting on for.
Yeah. Look, I am going, I'm just going to sit just firmly right between the two of you, because I'm going to hit 4.5 with this. I don't think it's quite perfect. Like I said, the relationship stuff is kind of weird. There's a couple spots where it's disjointed, but I don't think that that's worthy of losing an entire puff of gunpowder. I'm with you. Tim Burton has always had a special place for me, but in the past couple of years, Tim Burton has become especially important to me because Tim Burton has become the bridge to kind of getting my daughter into horror, which for anybody listening who doesn't have a 13-year-old daughter, it's damn near impossible to find any common ground about fucking anything. And so Tim Burton continues to do that. It started with Nightmare. It kept going with Edward Scissorhands and Beetlejuice. Hell, I checked her out from school early about a month ago so that we could go catch Beetlejuice. And nice. That was something that just the two of us were going to do. And you know, it was a great afternoon. And so I will always owe a lot of credit to Tim Burton for that, because I go back and I watch his movies all the time. And So this one it's up there. It's up there with the really good ones. You know, it is far superior to Alice in Wonderland and a couple of those others.
Yeah.
It's scary without being ridiculously scary. It's tense, it's fun. It really checks just a whole lot of boxes, and I enjoy that. I think that it's really good. And yeah, this is one that absolutely I would throw on for anyone. This is a movie that I think just about, even that friend who's like, I don't like really scary stuff, you can still get them into this one. You can still watch this one with them, and then you can kind of test the waters and see, okay, so you were good with that, you know, well, where can we go next? And so that's a big deal. So I'm going to sit at 4.5 on this one.
Nice. So if I'm doing my math right, and I'm probably not, that makes this 4.5 puffs of gunpowder.
Yes.
Gunpowder. Yeah.
Gunpowder.
Yeah. All right.
Get ready. Well, Gunpowder, the horse.
Yes. Not Gunsmoke, the TV show.
Right. There you go.
Well, Carl, thank you so much for coming on and doing this with
Absolutely.
Man. It's so great to have you back. Tell the people what they need to know about seeing stuff you've got coming out and what you can tell us about Mutilator 2, please.
I love you guys. I love the Shiver Pod. So I'm going to give you guys the free plug on your own show. Everybody should listen to the Shiver Pod. You never know.
Shiver loves you too, man.
You never know what's going to happen. Atlantic Beach this weekend. If you didn't buy your tickets, you're probably screwed because they're both sold out. With the on-set cinema thing, it's going to be fun. I think they set up a giant screen on the beach itself. I don't know how that works, but they've done it before with the first film, which is the 1984 film, The Mutilator, also called Fall Break. And you could always look on YouTube and you could listen to the music video of Fall Break, the song. So I believe he is actually selling the 45s.
Nice.
The record. Okay,
yeah.
It's 1984. The singles, I think it was before cassettes. I mean, even in the record stores, so it was a 45. Right. So that should be fun. I get to meet the fans. I love meeting the fans because horror movie fans are the best fans because they are incredibly loyal and they are incredibly grateful. And I do anything to make their experience better. Because I've been to cons now where you go and you see, I'm not going to say who, a couple of grumpy people, and you go, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? But, you know, without the fans, you're going to be, I mean, I know you do work at that chain store, but I mean, still, you know, I mean, you got a line somebody wants to, you know, take a picture with you. So for me, check out The Blackest Darkness. That's on Tubi. Mutilator 2 will be coming out soon. I know I said that last time, but again, with distribution and small independent films, it's not like we got Paramount and A24 and Universal to release into 1,000 theaters. It's when it's an independent film, it's very difficult for distribution. That's just the name of the game. Like I said before, you know, independent or horror movie or non, it's always a thing. I've been doing some voice work. There is a film coming out called Itch! It's coming out in December. It's a zombie movie. I don't know what that is, but okay.
Sorry, I was queuing it up for myself, and the thing just started playing.
You were pleasuring yourself again while we were recording this. I watched you this time. Yeah.
Never in the moment, man. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. Well, I thank you guys for having me, and I hope to come back again with something hilarious or something non-hilarious that we could make hilarious.
Absolutely, man. We can't wait to have you back.
Absolutely.
Hopefully with the Mutilator too. Hopefully.
That's the plan.
Hopefully.
Well, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And go watch Sleepy Hollow. Sleepy Hollow is a fun Halloween movie.
It absolutely.
Yes.
It really is.
It really is. So Daniel, have we discussed what's going on in November?
We have not. November starts in just a couple days, so keep an eye on our Instagram. You can head to shiverpod.com where you can find links to all of our social media sites. You can also buy t-shirts with our Frankenstein faces on them. So head to shiverpod.com where you can find links to all of that. We're at Shiverpod on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. We don't really use the Twitter that much, but it does exist. And keep an eye on that because at some point in the next week, we'll let you know what the monster for November is going to be.
I need a shirt. I need to wear that shirt.
We'd love it.
Yeah.
Shiverpod.com's got a link to our TeePublic.
All right. Sounds good.
I'll send one your way, Carl.
All right.
Yeah. So on behalf of all of us here at Shiver,